Aloha and welcome to the Anatomy of Descension. Today's going to be awesome. Just before we really get started, taking some deep, slow inhales and exhales, as if you could breathe through the bottoms of your feet. Resting, relaxing, unwinding. Really tuning into the bottoms of the feet. Becoming aware of whatever sensation you feel at the very bottoms of your feet. If you're sitting crisscross right now, or any way in which your feet are not touching the floor, just go ahead and put your feet onto the floor. Commanding and requesting that your sensitivity to the electromagnetics between your feet and the planet are just magnified for this time in order for you to become more aware of your electromagnetic body. Breathing slower and deeper into the bottoms of your feet. And with every in-breath, pulling in through the bottoms of your feet, the energy of the earth. Allowing your sensitivities to become fully tuned in to the space between your feet and the earth. Allowing every in-breath to bring in the energies of the earth through the bottoms of your feet, letting the in-breath drag, pull the energy of the earth into the body, and every out-breath, allowing the energy of your body to expand into the earth through the bottoms of the feet. Creating an electromagnetic exchange with the mother that holds you. Relaxing the muscles in your face and in your jaw. Resting, relaxing, unwinding. All patterns of tension. Every out breath, expanding your energy into the earth, far below your feet. Inhaling the core of the planet up through the bottoms of your feet. Resting, relaxing, unwinding. And just praying over this entire session, this class, that everyone that is here live and all those that are here to receive the transmission at a later date are all blessed, integrated, and embodied in the highest, best, and healthiest way for them at this time, according to their soul's direct connection to Source, and Source's perspective of it all, that all hindrances, blocks, and barriers to full soul integration into every cell of the body, every quantum particle of your existence, all released, resolved to completion with grace, ease, and mercy. And just commanding and asking that your soul's direct connection to Source use this portal for any activations, downloads, initiations, clearings, healings, embodiments of any latent soul gifts, talents, and abilities, psychic and intuitive capacities, but greater than all of this is the integration, embodiment, understanding on all appropriate levels of mercy. Feeling any tension in the gut. Pulling, releasing, cleansing, clearing, resolving any patterns of tension in the digestive system related or associated to receiving mercy that are incongruent and incompatible to who you are and who you are becoming. feeling all the places in your body where you have energies or frequencies running that tell you that you need to deserve the healed state, the resolved state of being anywhere and everywhere where you feel you must do something, be something, see something in a particular way in order for resolution to fully shine through you. Just allowing your soul to collapse all ideas, beliefs, conclusions, understandings, perspectives, or perceptions related or associated to this disintegrative state. To be dissolved and resolved completely. Taking a few deep, slow inhales and exhales. Today we're going to be going to the bone. Deep soul magic. Receiving the serenity and mercy of the soul in the body. Any kind of anxiety that you feel in your life, where you feel that anxiety in the body is literally telling you exactly where your soul is leaving the body. Anxiety is the sensation of the soul leaving physicality. Fear, same thing. Fear, anxiety, that sense of, you can probably feel it now in your gut. I'm feeling people feeling this right now. This sense of almost like butterflies in the stomach, but it's assuming that something is going to happen that doesn't feel good, that's going to diminish your sense of self, that's going to ruin your potential or detract in any sort of way from your value. These are all the stories, the reasons, the excuses that your mind is giving for what is occurring. It's just a mistranslation of what's actually happening, because most people on the planet still need reasons for things to occur, which is not wrong. It's just a certain way of experiencing reality. But in experiences, in process, there is a linear unfolding. And that linear unfolding is very mathematical in elementary school mathematics. 1 + 1 = 2. This happened, that happened, this happened. It's very clear and obvious what the results will be of that problem being solved. When there is anxiety in the body, there is all the reasons why that anxiety is there. And you will focus your entire life on trying to resolve the reasons that it gives you why it exists. I'm anxious because I don't know what I'm going to say next. I'm anxious because I don't know where this class is going. These are all the things that I could tell myself right now that are completely irrelevant to what's actually happening, because I don't need to know where this class is going or what I'm going to say next. You have to slow down more and what life is doing. Feeling all the places in our lives where we want to jump the gun, get this done, get that done. Just slowing down. Your healing will still occur, but it's not going to happen in the way that you think it has been happening. And I say that very purposefully. And it is also not going to happen in the way that you imagine it needs to happen. Instead of focusing on the reasons that your mind gives you for why anything is happening, just breathe into that part of you that thinks it knows what's happening. This is partly why people are not as intuitive or psychic as they think they are. Because they hear the reasons why things are happening and think that is intuition or psychic insight. And if you've taken the anatomy of knowing, you know the difference between psychic and intuitive, two completely different things for a reason. slowing down in a way that provides information that is felt that cannot be put into words. That's where you're going to access the deepest psychic and intuitive insight for your journey. Part of the anatomy of descension is the end of the spiritual journey, the end of the healing journey. And from as early as I can remember, I've always felt that I was here as spiritual energy as I've always felt and seen and perceived and experienced in my life to end spirituality. Because most of what people think is spirituality is just simply and beautifully attempting to know something prior to when that knowing is meant to arrive. And I've said this before in other classes, but if I'm meant to know at age 72 that I am a narcissist who hates everyone or something ridiculous, then at age 72, I will find that out. Why am I going to spend 71 years of my life digging and trying to figure out something if I'm destined to receive that information at 72 in a way that is the most efficient path? Many of us are completely slowing down our journey by trying to be on one. You are the journey unfolding. You don't need to know what happens next. You don't need to try and figure out what did happen, although there are times in our lives when it is important to reflect, of course. But the reflection happens naturally. The weirdest part for me in my life experience is really just realizing how I do things and why I do them that way, because I just do everything organically and naturally, and it's not like me trying to do anything. It's just showing up to the experience. And as torturous and abusive and painful as many of my experiences have been, there's this unending joy of exploration of everything that is occurring. And just witnessing your soul's direct connection to source, cutting away any attempts that are incongruent and incompatible to who you are and who you are becoming, to figure out your life in a way that is unhealthy, obsessive, and destroying your joy. Just witnessing this being cut out of the gut, the lower belly, the space between what you would call the sacral and the root, the pelvic floor, the womb, physically or etherically, whether you're a man or a woman. Feeling the energy unwinding. Relaxing, resting. The anatomy of descension is not the antithesis of ascension, it's the completion of it. There's so many beautiful beings in our conscious and spiritual communities all around the world, attempting to be nice and kind and generous. And obviously, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you simply remain in the heart and don't dive deeper into that, you're never going to experience the full potential of you fully being here. And that is the essence of the anatomy of descension, is to fully be here. To quit telling people yes when you mean no. To quit agreeing to things when you'd rather do something else, be something else. Agreeing to images that people place onto you. It doesn't matter what people think of you. Literally does not matter, because they are just speaking of their own experience of you. I'm sorry you're having a terrible experience of me. I'm having a great one. But to be so bold in your innocence, in the mercy for everything around you, within you, and the hardest part of the journey of descension is getting over the individual self. It's the individual that is attempting to hold and maintain all of these things, need to behave and be and see and feel and do in a certain way in order to maintain structure and an identity that is favorable to ascension, whatever the fuck that means. Ascension is cool. Descension is hot. Ascension is forgiveness and compassion. Descension is rage and anger. It's you fully allowing yourself to be human and to completely cease making that wrong. It's you having and fulfilling sexual desires as feels right and good to you. It's breaking down all the things that you were told that you had to be, had to do, had to show up as in order to be deemed worthy to be here. Sometimes it's making choices counter to all of those things, holding and knowing the innocence that you are, regardless of what consensus reality shares with you. There comes a point in your journey when you're just like, okay, I love myself. And it's not like you need to reach a point where you love every single part of yourself to get there, because that would keep you looping in time as well. And the problem with the ascension path is it keeps you looping in time forever, trying to get to some point B, when the point is simply to be. You didn't come here to follow a spiritual path. But to be spirit regardless of the path that you take. Just like in so many other the anatomies of, whatever is happening right now is the most efficient path. Life is only observing the most efficient path. So it doesn't matter if you veer left or veer right from the perception of your mind. You are only being observed in the most efficient path. So in the moment, there may be realizations of, yeah, not going to do that again. But that doesn't make that part of your journey wrong. It makes it vital to the progress of you along the most efficient path. And that point, which can happen at any point, you can have this point happen prior to the most dastardly things that you could possibly do, or completely after resolution. It doesn't really matter. There's no requisites for you to receive this within yourself, but you have to receive it within yourself. And that is, no matter what I've done or no matter what I could do, I'm going to be there with myself. How many things must happen for you to completely receive that in your body? When I created interior design, it was out of being told that I was dying and me saving my own life. One instance after another, and it was in an instantaneous healing of a systemic staph infection that my foot was oozing all sorts of abscessed disgustingness. That I finally realized, oh my God, I'm safe. No matter what happens in my body, it can be resolved instantly, or I can relax into the process if my body needs something slower than what my mind perceives as instant, because when you really get down to it, every healing, integration, embodiment, resolution is instantaneous. It just looks different depending on what your mind, body, and spirit needs in order for the most efficient path to unravel. Some people need a long process in order to gain what they wanted to receive here. If you don't need your life to teach you things anymore, then you can resolve process into instantaneous healing. Also in interior design, but this is so important for some reason, obviously. When doctors told me I was going blind or could go blind, and then 6 months later when I was going blind, it got so bad at one moment that I was driving in San Diego and I couldn't see anything but general shapes and directions that things were moving, and I was following at 70 miles an hour or whatever. And I commanded that whatever distortions related or associated to the physical distortion of my eyes and my relationships and my perception of the past or the future or any ideas, understandings, etc., 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 to be resolved so that my vision could heal now. And the second I said now, my vision corrected to 2020. But the next 3 days was the greatest emotional upheaval I've ever experienced in my life still. So there is instantaneous and there is process. All of it is happening now. And why is this so important to the anatomy of descension? Because your descension into the body will always happen now. Your full embodiment in this life of your soul in this form will always happen now. What else is required for you to fully commit to being here? All the things that we call trauma are basically just the reasons why we give ourselves that we can't be here. I was raped as a child and many times as an adult. That fueled me to be here more than ever. And for a long time, it kept me far outside of my body. But it was that first time waking up to having someone having sex with me that I absolutely would never in a million years. And my first conscious thought was, I can't imagine how much pain they must be in order to do this to someone else. It was compassion. And my mantra for many years that assisted me in so many ridiculous levels of integration of consciousness was, thank you for raping me. In 2012, I was sitting on a rooftop in San Francisco, gazing at the Golden Gate Bridge and having this sudden understanding and seeing of a vision that my dad abusing me as a child, it was my energy, my light that was animating his being, abusing me so that I could be where I am consciously with the compassion, with the integration, and the power that I was at that time. And I broke down in tears and gratitude. Thank you for abusing me into being who I am now. All of that is stunningly beautiful to realize, but it is also the ascension aspect of the body and soul. That's not the end of the journey, and it's not the goal. There is no goal. There is just deeper integration of who you are here, fully capable of expressing all aspects of your being. And I remember going to Brazil the first time, and there were the human reasons why I was going. But I asked my spirit, like, what are we doing going here? Because there's obviously some activation. And I just heard, you're going to fully activate and integrate the emotional body. Yay, whatever that means. You know, that's what I usually say to those answers. Cool, whatever that means. And I'll figure it out later. I don't need to know. Just let me experience it. Oh my God. That's a lot. To activate basically mean you're going to be triggered like crazy. And integrate, which means become a human. I was always floating above life. Nothing ever touched me, no matter how many times I've been raped, abused, stolen from, cheated on. It was just like, no big deal. So easy. Just compassion, just love, just no anything. And because my trauma as a child was so intense, I spent most of the time outside of my body, blacked out. This body doesn't necessarily have full memory of anything that happened when I was a child. And in so many classes, I talk about the inversion of the healing path that needs to be righted in order for us to truly grasp what is occurring here and to enjoy it. And that is that you are not what is healing, you are not what is awakening, You are not what is transforming. You are not what is enlightening. None of those things. You are that which is already completely resolved. And as that which you are, which is the soul, enters physical form, it cold presses out of the cells of your body all that is not in resonance with who you are. And as all that gets cold pressed out of you, there's all the feelings, the thoughts, the things that need to be healed that you become aware of as you come into the body. And you're holding on to those things as if those things need to be healed, not realizing that you, which is entering the body, is resolving it upon contact. And you're so psychic and intuitive and aware that as it leaves your body just to let you know what is saying goodbye, you confusedly try to latch onto it. And that's what you try and heal. The healing journey is people latching on to things that are already going because they are entering and making a storyline out of it. Your story is beautiful and there is power in there, but your story is what's leaving you so that you can live a new story. And you are that new story coming alive. But you have to let go of everything that is leaving in order for you to do that. So pay no mind to what is arising. And most of you are spending your time loving what is arising, thinking that is going to heal what's arising. And the misinterpretation of that is to love the one experiencing it all, of course. That is what is meant by that. But so many people on so many different paths are attempting to love the things that they think are them. And that's just what's already on its way out. I remember one day when my entire life changed because my best friend, who will be watching this replay at a certain point, said, for years, you need to unhook from the lunar grid, the lunar matrix, because with every cycle, I was just going through massive shifts and changes. Not that that's wrong, but it's just part of process and journey. And I was standing there at Sunset Cliffs, gazing into the sun for the last 30 minutes of the day, directly into the sun. And it just happened to be a full moon that night. And the energy in the field was rather intense. And my vision opens up while I continue staring at the sun, and I see everyone behind me gazing up the hill towards the moon that's rising. And I'm feeling everyone feeling all these emotions. It was a very intense day. And they're gazing at the reflection of this light that I was solely focused on. And here I am looking at the soul, fully illuminated, fully realized, fully integrated in itself. Just more and more beauty from it being felt and seen. If you've never sun gazed, I highly recommend it. It is a living being and it is giving life to this planet. People are focused on its reflection. And turning all the ups and downs that this supposedly gives into endless process when you can just be Akamai, or more clever than the most clever person in the room, sort of what the meaning means in Hawaiian, and focus on what is even giving that light. So as a metaphor, that completely shifted the lunar grid, the lunar matrix, as some people call it, in my own body. And like some kind of wild thing, because I don't track the moon at all anymore, and I don't sun gaze every day either. But on days that I find myself super drawn to sun gaze, it's always the full moon. It's like become a joke now. Use that as a metaphor. Focus only on your sun, your soul. Your soul doesn't live here. This translates the energy of your soul to be experienced in this plane. Your spirit lives in your gut, in your na'au. And we talk about the 3 centers of perception in the Anatomy of Awakening: the gut, the heart, and the mind. Unihipili uhane amaukua. Ascension is leaving the gut into the heart, into the mind. Most of us will complete this with psychosis, and you return down through power into the heart, where we resolve the hero and the rebel, the 2 major archetypes that play out here: the villain, the Christ, the Messiah, the Savior. All of those energies live here, but that storyline has to complete in order for your consciousness to return to its rightful place in your gut, in your na'au, which is the Hawaiian word. That sounds very much like now. And you don't have to do anything in order to return to now. That's just where you are. There can only be ways in which you distract yourself from that. Placing your left hand on your belly, your right hand on your heart. It's an ancient Hawaiian greeting from the Mu lineage. Keone Hanalei teaches this. Highly recommend his work if you are interested in ancient Hawaiian wisdom, Kohala Hawaiian botanicals. But this position, left hand on the lower belly, right hand on the heart, is honoring the masculine and feminine aspects of your being. Breathing just like we were earlier into the electromagnetics of the feet and the earth. Just feeling your spirit in your left hand, your heart, which translates that spirit into something that is emotionally tangible and felt in this world. Every inhale, breathing in to the palms, feeling that connection between your hands and the body. Letting all emergency leave your being. It's hilarious because I'm teaching a class called Emergence tomorrow. But it is out of non-emergence that we truly emerge. Just sink into that. Out of non-emergence, we truly emerge. That means the subtraction of process, subtraction of needing anything to be anything other than what it is in order to receive mercy, grace, ease. All parts of you must be included. And if you still want a process of some sort to engage, what in your life needs to be changed? What needs to be different in order for you to be okay with yourself? And ask your now, ask your gut. What is the seat of your wisdom, your intuition? How can I include this? Sometimes it's just the intention to include that opens the door enough for the light of mercy to reach it. Some parts of us have been so fragmented in this lifetime, in this lifetime, in this lifetime, or any lifetime. And just asking a question of how to include this, the things that we feel shameful of, wrong about, regretful of. How can we include them? And sometimes that intensifies the feeling again, because as the mercy of that which you are enters physical form, it's going to press out the cells of your body, all the ideas, beliefs, conclusions, understandings, perspectives, perceptions that say that cannot be included. Well, let me tell you something. God is omnipresent or it is not. God is everywhere or it is not. It is not both ways. It may not be fully realized and expressed in something, but it is fully present. And the God that is fully present in all things is aware of everything that it is doing. Nothing escapes. Everything is returning. All that you haven't touched with compassion, you will find compassion for. All rage and anger that you haven't allowed yourself to explore will be seen, because healing, in order to collapse the paradigm of healing within yourself, and this will happen again and again and again until it's completely complete. To collapse that polarity of healing and the paradigm of it, you must reach into absolute compassion and total rage. And that doesn't mean you have to go crazy in order for this to occur. It just means that you have to let yourself completely feel the rage in your being. And rage will mature compassion, and compassion will mature your rage. And in the beginning, it will seem like compassion and rage are on opposite sides of the spectrum, because that's how far they have been disunified. Rage is a pretty passionate display. And if you break down the word compassion using Portuguese, it's com, passion, with passion. So you have passion and with passion. How did those two get separated? And day by day, moment by moment, as you're working through these polarities of passion, or sorry, compassion and rage, you bring these closer into a single unified state, which is your prayer. Swear to God, I'm not trying to be this poetic. It's just happening. Your compassion is sometimes telling someone to fuck off. Sometimes you need to be allowed to fully express how upset you are and let that be okay. But you're trying to control your behavior in such a way so that you can ascend or be worthy of the ascension that you're trying to reach for. You are already worthy. And in fact, your purposeful suppression of these qualities of you is preventing the full integration of your consciousness in this body because you are denying the full expression of it. It would be like having a flute and only playing the first two notes, thinking that those high notes are going to get you into some sort of heaven. Don't wait for heaven, become it, and become it through every part of your being. Allow heaven to express through your sex, through your joy, through your anger, through your beauty, through your compassion, through your joy and glee. There is no part of you that cannot be included. And the things inside of you telling you that they cannot be included are the things that are evaporating as the inclusion that you are comes in to dwell with all the diversity of that is here to be. And we're not saying this to what is leaving that can no longer make it in the atmosphere that you are creating inside of you. We are saying this to ourselves, which have experienced it all. And there will come a day when you look within yourself, when you're no longer scared to look at it. Many of us deny and suppress things because we're afraid of actually looking at something and finding something unredeemable. But that sense of something being unredeemable is actually the sensation of the degree in which you're not looking at it. So the more unredeemable something within you feels, the less you're actually looking at it. When you fully look into it, into the sun, you will only receive love, adoration, insight, realization, mercy. But when you're not fully looking at that, you are gazing upon a reflection, a fragmentation of who you are. Of course, you're going to feel bad because your focus is on a fragment instead of your totality. And your totality breathes into every aspect of you until it fills the outer edges of what you know yourself to be and spills over into the world around you. And that is Aloha Ma. Aloha Ma, as Keone Hanalei discusses a lot, is self-reflective love. It is filling yourself so much that you give of your overflow. You're never going to overflow if you're focusing on your fragmentation and trying to work that out as if it's going to get you somewhere. It will get you nowhere, but deeper and deeper into hell. And that is the end of the healing journey. The healing path, ascension, is dead. It's been done. We've done this a million billion times. We don't need to do it again. We came to bring all of the brilliance of all the times that we've done that into full dissension. When you overlay the Mayan archetypes on the planet, Brazil is the human. And energetically, those people have mastered what it means to be human. I have never met a more passionate people. I've dated Latinos. There's Latino and then there's Brazilian. It's a whole other level. And my soul, 100% Brazilian. When I went there, I was like, holy shit, there are other people like me on the planet. Like, this is amazing. Just full expression, full vitality, no matter what's happening. People have nothing and they're just so joyful to be alive because they have mastered the emotional body, the human aspect of the emotional body. Full of passion, full of rage. It's all acceptable. I saw Brazilians fighting like they were gonna cut each other's throats and then hug and laugh afterwards. They're not sticking to something that's happening. They're just moving forward with the flow. And yet that's still just a piece. And I hope to write books in Portuguese one day about this. And they are rising up as a culture through all of that pain that they also hold into absolute compassion. And the day that that culture collectively does it will create a ripple through the multiverse unlike anything that has ever occurred. Because this realm is one of emotion. We came here to feel, and the Brazilians are doing it very, very well. And when they can reach up collectively and touch that compassion and collapse that reality, it will absolutely be insane. Insanity. It will finally be insane. And we're trying to reach, so many of us are trying to reach sanity by leaving it. Thinking that you can't be this or can't be that in order to reach it. You have to touch all of it. You have to alchemize everything. This isn't a game of picking and choosing what is okay. You are God's eyes and ears, and every part of every aspect of your reality that you have touched with these must be alchemized, or you will find yourself getting sick or feeling anxious, feeling uneasy, confused. Whatever it is that feels uncomfortable is a part of your energy field that you are not fully embodying. But you don't have to feel it to heal it, although you will feel it as the integration and resolution of your soul embodies it. The feeling is endless because that's what we're here to do, to feel. It's just the joyful getting off on every single sensation that's possible. There's a power and gravity to anger, to rage, to joy, to glee. To allow yourself to fully explore the extremes will collapse the identities that exist in these extremes until you are free to feel, be, experience, act, and do anything. Everything that you've done is included. Everything that you could do is included. Can you feel the depth of the mercy in this transmission? The only thing that you have to do is dare to breathe slower and deeper and in the presence of anything. One of the hardest things in my life's journey has been worthiness. Literally feeling it to the bone. Pain, the suffering of unworthiness. Sometimes it still comes in waves. but I am no longer unworthy. I am worthy of every ounce of unworthiness that I have ever felt, because it is only worthiness that can survive the onslaught of that. And it is from my very literal bones that I transmit the worthiness of this mercy. And I mean that esoterically, but I also mean that scientifically. Because self-devaluation is related to the skeletal system in German New Medicine. And I spent much of the last few years in extreme anemia on all levels. I feel like I slept for the past 3 years. But I didn't need anything other than to breathe and be with all the unworthiness that I felt. Sometimes months on end of extreme pain in my bones and my teeth, which is where self-devaluation conflicts arise in the body. In order for it to resolve. And I could literally feel as I entered deeper and deeper the worthiness that I am into the physical form, descending into the body. The resolution of all of these conflicts in deeper and deeper layers and levels. And every time my body rebooting and literally feeling my body respond to that worthiness by producing massive new levels of red and white blood cells as a reflection of the integration of the soul in the body. And this is what I say in interior design. The only thing that is going to heal you is the soul fully entering the body. It is what mitigates, resolves, and completely cures the body of any dis-ease. This is cutting-edge science of both the logical kind and the esoteric kind. We each have our own different kinds of major conflicts in our lives. And so in your dissension process, dis-ease and disorder is very common. But one of the most important pieces is to recognize that symptoms arise largely, most of the time, not in the conflict active stage, but once you have resolved that conflict and gone into resolution. This is why interior design is so important, because it was piece by piece everything that is required to deconstruct the old paradigm of disease, so that the dissension process can occur with so much more ease, because it can be joyful. When you know what's occurring as it's happening, it's joyful, even when it's fucking terrifying. Being told I'm dying, and I'm like, actually, no. All of my childhood trauma that I wasn't present for is being resolved as the presence that I am is entering this physical form. And my doctor looked at me like, okay, highly don't recommend what you're doing, but I believe you. And I just kept getting better and better and better. But it takes dissolving all stories of decay that the world will try and teach you, that this matrix of fragmentation will try and teach you and initiate you into a looping consciousness of never-ending mitigation of suffering. We are not here to mitigate suffering or to heal. We're here to be free. Freedom in the body can liberate you from any disease, any disorder. Sometimes it'll be instant, and other times it will look like process. Can you be okay with either? And the more okay you are with process, the more you don't need it. Just like I tell all people who complain about traffic. The moment that we collectively integrate the patience that traffic is trying to teach us will be the moment that someone will invent a teleportation machine, or we will all learn how to do it energetically. Literally will be the moment that it gets downloaded into collective consciousness. Which brings me to the last and final piece of the Anatomy of Descension, which is the disintegration of the personal journey and the acceptance of community. Ah, this is such a huge one. And I will admit that I am not fully integrated in this, but it is where I've been working for at least the last year. Because I've always wanted to do it all by myself. And I had to, my journey has always been finding the words to express how I've always been seen and known reality to be. And while I have learned, there isn't really this sense of learning things. It's like, oh yeah, I know that. Now I can express this. But because of that deep inherent knowing, I felt so isolated, so alone, because the world around me seemed, I used to tell my parents all the time, like, I'm either supposed to be born in Europe or like in the future, but nothing here makes sense to me. I'm supposed to be somewhere else. it's like being in a different culture and you were just like planted there from a different culture and you're like, but none of these customs make sense. The ways in which people react and respond, interact with one another, it never made sense to me. And so I was having full-blown, deep psychic, mystical experiences as a child, and knowing that I couldn't tell anyone anything because it was like, I know that people aren't experiencing what I'm experiencing, and I know that I'm not crazy, but if I express it, I'll be seen that way and it will disturb what's happening. And so I remained in silence. Isolation. And that isolation served me in cultivating myself to be here now in this way. But it is no longer the most efficient path. And it is no longer the most efficient path for any of us existing in isolation. And so, in a massive piece of magic, I signed up. After many times of saying that I was going to sign up to my friend, putting on the Aloha Ma Congress, Keone Hanalei. And I kept telling Keone that I was going to join. But secretly, this part of me that was still locking in, you know, like, no, I'm gonna do and be Aloha Ma myself. I need to figure this out for myself first. And I did to a certain degree, definitely, for sure. But again, not the most efficient path at this time anymore, because we are dissolving the individual and each of our bodies is integrating collective consciousness. And this is the leading edge of where we are going and what is occurring. And there's beautiful aspects of reality right now that are attempting to be part of that. In a way that really isn't fully integrative of what it means. And they are co-opting that through the lens of consensus reality. It's all the pain and suffering that you feel and see when people are just trying to be and express themselves, and people are hardening down on it needs to be expressed this way. Honey, I'm not non-binary, I'm quantum. Nothing you say is going to offend me. I don't need to identify in a particular way, and it's not wrong if I did identify in a particular way. But do we want to identify in a particular way, or do we need to identify in a particular way? And I say this only because someone like me can easily say this and it be received. We already all care about one another. There are obviously people who don't. But the consensus reality of collective consciousness, where we're awakening to this collective reality of each other and trying to be mindful. It's not malicious in any intent. But the way it is delivered is absolutely being used maliciously. And in large part, by people that would identify me as part of their community. And I can't stand with that. And I don't identify myself as being part of any type of community other than with you. And I can only do that with every single one of you if I absolve myself completely of every layer and level of consensus reality. The integration of that is how I wrote Conversational Judo with a White Supremacist when I sat in front at the White House on election night with a Proud Boy who expressed to me that he was a white supremacist and hated gays. At least I was doing one thing right, I guess. I don't know. According to his reality. And I just listened to him and I let him express. Obviously, it didn't make sense to my reality, but by simply listening to him, it dissolved the fight in him. And the gift of what that being is doing on one layer of reality is destroying consensus reality. And it's this part of reality and that part of reality, the one that looks like compassion, consensus reality compassion, and the one in rage, consensus reality rage. We all must be white and non-gay to be happy. We all must be this way and express ourselves and whatever to be happy. Both of those realities are canceling each other out by being opposed to one another. And that's why consensus reality isn't wrong. It's just no longer the most efficient path. And the most efficient path is whatever is in front of you, either wholeheartedly received or completely rejected by you. And that is your individuation. You're allowed to receive or reject anything that isn't nourishing to and for you. And also in that, you must learn how to be nourished by anything. So that you're not opposed to things that happen in your life. Thank you for raping me. Thank you for abusing me. But I will not allow you to rape or abuse me any longer. Do you see the totality of all that is here? To fully receive it and to fully reject it all at once. It's not this way or that way, it's both. And we are moving from either or to both and. In the Anatomy of Confidence, I talk about that a lot. Moving from a binary system to a quantum system. In this quantum system, where we are both and get to have an individual experience, but you're not required to hold that individual experience on your own. And this is why we share in community. And this is something that I'll be doing in in-person events here in Honolulu. And hopefully when I figure out the right format, also online. But wherever you are right now in your life, just open up a little bit more and be received by others, because so many of us are afraid of the rejection, and that's what prevents us from fully descending into the unification of our body and soul, which prevents full unification between us and community. You're going to have to expose yourself, the good, the bad, and let both be received. And if people can't receive you in that, that's a good time to use what I said earlier as a tool of massive compassion and tell them to fuck off. Or don't actually say that and just move on with your life, whatever works for you. And what I really mean by that is sometimes people need to know that their behavior is obscene. And you can love people all you want. And sometimes you need to set boundaries with how people treat you. And if you're used to letting people walk all over you because you're a beautifully ascended being, it's going to feel like you're a really shitty person to just stop letting people shit on you. So what? I've been a shitty person. I was joking with my friend the other day when someone did something really ridiculous to me, and I was like, wow, this is really triggering me, and I am having a hard time deciphering whether the healed version or the ghetto version of me is going to respond. And that inquiry does not, like, it's not more amazing or ascended to like not even have that conversation. The full dissension of my expressive soul in this body, just admitting that's the experiencing that I'm having, is just real. I'm not here to be ascended or enlightened. I'm here to be real in this body with all sorts of emotions, desires, expressions that may or may not be perceived by the world around me as okay. But as long as I'm okay with it, it's all that really matters, because I know my intention. My intention is to allow myself to fully be here. Because so much of my early life was me being shut down beyond my will. It is me allowing myself to have a willful experience that is my personal healing of this body. And to join community is to let all of us have that experience. And it's going to look different for every single person. And that's why in my reality, I assume everyone is doing whatever is required for their most efficient path. Even the people that yell at me, think I'm a terrible person, which is really hard for me to imagine how that's possible, because I feel like I'm a really good person. Apparently, some people don't think that. And that's okay. Because we're all seeing from different perspectives. Just keep your gaze focused on the expression and expansion of your soul into the body. Let yourself inhabit all of you. I can feel this boiling in sacrals of those all who are to listen to this at some point. Because so many of us born into puritanical culture fully suppress our sexuality. This will be another class in the future, but one of the most important things that you can do to bring your energy up into the creative expression of your life is to allow your deepest desires as an archetype to express through every part of you. For many years, mentors were like, you need to get on video. And I was like afraid of being seen, watched in that way. It was so easy for me to hide behind my keyboard and type out all of what I'm sharing here. And it took my deepest desire of being seen and allowing that the erotic nature of a desire to filter itself through all aspects of your life, to show up, to be real. If my desire is to be seen, then I must be seen. If your desire is to be healthy, let it filter into every aspect of your reality so that all of you can be healthy. And where are we using these reasons to distract ourselves from the full integration? And oftentimes that happens between the ascension and the descension, where, for example, in health, it's healthy for me to be compassionate and loving. So is it not healthy to be angry? I would certainly argue that not expressing your anger is extremely unhealthy. In fact, it's going to kill your liver. And expressing it will heal it. I was born jaundice, yellow. My liver was not functioning my entire life. Doctors, Western, Chinese, shamans, whoever was ever working with me at any point in my life until recently, always would say, your liver is like not functioning very well at all. Your liver's low, your liver's low. I know. Until Brasil, the integration of the emotional body. Oh, fuck. I get to be angry. I get to be loud about it if I want to. Not necessarily at others, but I can be fully in the boiling point of that emotion and just let it purify me. It's what's leaving anyways. That was the distortion that I still had that didn't allow me to express that. It was like, I thought it was coming in still, even though cognitively I had already gotten the download of the orientation of life, but I hadn't fully connected all these little dots. Oh, it's leaving. So I have to of course, duh. And I began purifying my being by including the part of my being that wasn't that high spiritual ideal, which bleh, makes me want to vomit now. And seeing it in others is equally obnoxious because I'm just like, dude, be real. If you want to be angry, it's fine. I had multiple people check my liver now and say, oh my God, like your liver could hold so much more. Like you could do like a really intense cleanse and it would be fine. Your liver chi is flowing, it's moving, it's all of that. But it was my soul entering and inhabiting that allowed that transmutation to occur. From a liver that's not functioning to a liver that can hold more than it is currently being given. I didn't take drugs. I didn't use herbs. I allowed myself to fully be here. And there is no part of my body that hasn't or won't be resolved to completion and reflecting the perfection that it is by the soul fully entering and inhabiting. And so in this few closing moments, sitting back into yourself and just getting curious. What part of my life, what part of my body am I not fully inhabiting at this point? How can I include this too? Sometimes saying something like, I want to be depressed forever. I want to be angry forever. I want to be sad forever. I want cancer forever. Whatever it is. Whatever you don't want, allowing yourself to say that you want it forever. What emotion, quality, sensation, feeling does that bring up inside of you? Just fully interface with that. And don't stop until there's nothing left. I was about to go to the emergency room. It felt like I was going to explode. But I had already made the agreement that I was done with pharmaceuticals. And I just sat with it and I said, show me whatever I need to resolve in order for this to heal right now. One by one, things showed up and I just didn't stop until nothing came up anymore. And I just interfaced with every little piece that showed up. Some things I didn't even know how to work with. Show me how to work with this. I don't know how to resolve this. You don't need to know. You don't need to know all of it right now. I have dedicated my entire life to this process. It's not going to all come overnight. But sharing in these sessions and classes and transmissions is absolutely moving things forward at an accelerated rate so that it doesn't take as long for you to integrate the same. All you have to do is work the same process and just keep trusting that you are on the most efficient path, regardless of what it looks like. And this fragmentation will do whatever it can to make you think it's not the most efficient path. Just keep focusing on your soul. This is just cultivating more of your soul. It's not breaking you down. It's not making you less. Anything that feels like that is being broken down or making you less is simply the sensation of what is leaving. You don't need to look away from your gaze into your own soul, into the cultivation of what is being made right now through this process. And I would suggest doing one thing as a way of integrating this into your life. Either gaze into the sun 20 to 30 minutes before sundown at horizon. If that terrifies you, stare into a candle that's lit. Don't stare into a candle without a flame. That would be weird. Stare into the candle flame. And anytime there is, and do it in a busy place if you can, or where there's movement. It's amazing if you can do it in the sun, there's a park, there's people moving around, because there's going to be so many exciting and interesting, distracting things that you can look at. Just keep breathing slower and deeper and staring at the sun. And as you do this, you're moving out of your field all that would have you be distracted, to be moved out of this direct transmission with a light that gives life to this planet. Your internal light is giving life to your body. Focus there. I love you. Aloha ma.